Have you ever wondered how a species from a small planet like Earth can completely change the course of war in a vast galaxy? How can humanity defeat a powerful and advanced enemy like the Dominion with just a single battleship? And why does this happen? Let's dive into this fascinating story. Welcome to HFY Sci-Fi Love and War Story. In this video, we're going to explore how humanity, with its constant innovation and creativity, brought about a revolution in warfare and galactic strategy, even when faced with the most formidable enemies. Can humanity stand strong against a galactic empire like the Dominion? Let's find out together in this video. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exciting videos on science fiction and epic war stories. And if you have any thoughts or feedback, feel free to leave a comment below. Your input helps the channel grow and bring you even more high-quality content. The Marasian Defense Fleet had long been a proud and formidable force within the Galactic Coalition, a key player in maintaining peace and order throughout the galaxy. Known for their sophisticated fleet of capital ships and advanced tactical abilities, the Marasians had once been seen as invincible in the eyes of many, their influence spread across numerous star systems. But now, as the Dominion's fleet emerged from hyperspace, they were no match for the unrelenting power and strategy of their enemy. Admiral Trax stood frozen, eyes wide with horror as he observed the devastating unfolding of events. His command vessel's sensors flashed with data, each piece of information more ominous than the last. The Marasian fleet, once a symbol of strength, was being obliterated in a series of precise, coordinated strikes. 17 of the Marasian capital ships had been wiped out in mere moments, leaving nothing but scattered debris and the haunting silence of a battle lost before it had even begun. Over 40,000 Marasian soldiers, engineers, officers, and civilians had perished, their lives snuffed out without so much as a distress signal reaching the rest of the coalition. The Dominion's warships, black as void itself, moved with a precision that defied all known military principles. Unlike any known species warships, the Dominion's vessels absorbed all light and scanner waves, making them nearly invisible to traditional detection methods. They appeared from hyperspace without warning, too quickly for the Marasian fleet to mount any effective defense. As the Marasian ships fired their weapons, they struck nothing but empty space, their shots dissipating harmlessly against the Dominion ships' cloaking shields. Even the best attempts of Marasian tacticians, honed over centuries of warfare, were rendered useless by the Dominion's overwhelming technological superiority. For the Marasian fleet, this was not just a defeat, it was a cataclysm. The Marasians had once been a shining example of what a united, technologically advanced species could accomplish. Their fleet was a marvel, designed not only for combat but also for peacekeeping and exploration. They had been instrumental in the formation of the Galactic Coalition, their home world a center of scientific advancement and cultural prosperity. Now, in the span of a few minutes, their future seemed bleak, their place in the galaxy hanging by a thread. Admiral Trax, a veteran of countless battles, could feel the weight of failure pressing down on him as his command center went silent. His tactical officer's voice trembled with fear as they confirmed the loss of their capital ships, one by one. His face went pale as he gripped the armrest of his chair, struggling to maintain his composure. The eternal light. The Dawn Ward, they're gone, sir, the tactical officer said, voice breaking with the weight of the news. Trax's scales, which would normally flare with irritation or intensity during moments of stress, flattened against his skull in an expression of deep distress. Among his people, this was the physical gesture of despair, a clear sign of the gravity of the situation. His home world, Meraxo, was now nothing more than a battlefield. Once the center of a proud empire, it was now teetering on the brink of collapse, threatened with annihilation at the hands of the Dominion. The tactical officer's voice trembled once again, this time with uncertainty. Admiral, I'm detecting an unknown vessel approaching from Vector 73. It's not broadcasting any coalition identification codes. The room fell into a stunned silence, every officer holding their breath as Trax processed the information. Another Dominion vessel? More reinforcements to finish them off? Is it Dominion reinforcements? Trax asked, his voice tight with the stress of the situation. No, sir, the tactical officer responded, confusion evident in their tone. The energy signature, it's unlike anything we've seen before. It's unfamiliar. It doesn't match Dominion patterns. The uncertainty hanging in the air was almost as heavy as the loss of the fleet itself. What could this unknown ship be? Was it another enemy force, or something entirely new? Trax's mind raced, but before he could process the information further, the main view screen flickered to life. What appeared on the screen was a sight unlike anything the Marasians had ever witnessed. The newcomer's ship, though enormous, was anything but sleek or refined like the Marasien or Dominion designs. It was a massive rectangular hull, bristling with weapons systems, scarred and pitted in places, suggesting it had seen its fair share of combat. There were no curves or flowing lines, only a brutal, functional design. It had no concern for aesthetics or elegance, only power. "What is that?" Trax whispered, his voice filled with awe and disbelief. The ship accelerated toward the Dominion fleet with a speed that seemed impossible for something of its size. Just as it neared the first wave of Dominion warships, space itself appeared to ripple around the unknown vessel. A subtle distortion, a bending of reality took place. And in that instant, the Dominion warships began to die. One by one, massive explosions lit up the darkness of space as their shields and defenses were shattered by the unseen force of the unknown ship's weaponry. The Marasiens had been fighting a war they knew they could not win. They had watched as the Dominion's overwhelming superiority brought their world to the brink of annihilation. But now, for the first time in what felt like an eternity, the tide of the battle shifted. The unknown vessel was fighting back against the Dominion with an intensity that no one had expected. The very laws of physics seemed to bend in its wake. Admiral Trax, his mind racing with disbelief, barely had time to process the destruction unfolding before him. The Dominion's forces, so precise and deadly only moments before, were now floundering in disarray. The alien ship moved with an eerie, almost impossible fluidity, appearing here, then there, delivering devastating strikes to the Dominion fleet at speeds no one thought possible. This was not the kind of intervention Trax had expected, and yet, it was exactly what he needed. The unknown vessel was rewriting the rules of war, and in that moment, it seemed that hope had been rekindled for the Marasiens. Could this ship, and the beings aboard it, be the saviors they had been desperately waiting for? Only time would tell. But for now, the Dominion's dominance had been shattered, if only for a fleeting moment. Trax could barely comprehend the enormity of the change. A new power had entered the battlefield, one that had the potential to not only turn the tide of the current battle but perhaps even the entire war. And with that thought, a single, desperate hope flickered in his mind. Perhaps, just perhaps, the Marasiens could survive after all. As Admiral Helena Frost and her crew aboard the Thunderchild entered the Marasien system, they were met with skepticism and wariness. The Thunderchild, Earth's first interstellar battleship, was vastly outnumbered, with only a small crew compared to the advanced war machines of the Dominion. Despite its imposing appearance, the ship seemed primitive in comparison to the sleek, highly advanced vessels of the Coalition and the Dominion. Yet, as the ship approached the Marasien system, something unexpected began to stir among the Coalition forces. They were about to witness a force unlike anything they had ever encountered. The Thunderchild was not just a ship. It was a testament to the ingenuity of humanity, a creation designed not for beauty but for function. Unlike the elegant, organic curves of Coalition ships, the Thunderchild was a brutal, no-nonsense machine built with one purpose in mind: to fight. Its massive, rectangular hull was scarred with the marks of battle, and its design was anything but aesthetically pleasing. There were no concessions to form over function. It was a ship built to survive, to endure, and to destroy. At first glance, the Thunderchild might have appeared crude, even outdated. Yet within its cold, metallic frame lay some of humanity's most innovative technologies. It was not about elegance or advanced appearances, it was about raw, unrelenting power. This ship had no need for flashy displays, it was built for combat efficiency. And in the unforgiving depths of space, that efficiency would be put to the test against the most powerful force the galaxy had ever seen. What set the Thunderchild apart from every other ship in the galaxy was its weaponry. The ship was equipped with kinetic lances, immense projectiles that were launched at near-light speeds, capable of causing catastrophic damage. These were not energy-based weapons like those commonly used by other galactic species. Instead, the Thunderchild relied on raw kinetic force, accelerating enormous masses to velocities that defied belief, resulting in impacts equivalent to small nuclear detonations. Each strike was a brutal display of humanity's strategic thinking. When you don't have the most advanced energy weapons, you use what you do have and make it as destructive as possible. This shift in technological focus, choosing physical strength and power over traditional energy weapons, raised a crucial question about humanity's approach to warfare. Why would humans opt for such a seemingly primitive approach, when so many other species had embraced energy weapons and advanced technology? The answer may lie in Earth's own history of conflict, where traditional energy weapons were often impractical or prohibitively expensive. Over time, humanity learned to focus on speed, precision, and overwhelming force, rather than relying on the high-tech gadgets that could be easily countered by an enemy's defenses. As the Thunderchild engaged the Dominion fleet, its weapons unleashed devastating strikes against enemy ships. The Thunderchild's raw destructive power quickly became apparent. The Dominion's ships, renowned for their precision and near invisibility in battle, were no match for the overwhelming kinetic lances that tore through their hulls with ease. Where the Dominion's vessels had once moved with almost supernatural grace, now they seemed sluggish and vulnerable, unable to defend themselves against the Thunderchild's precise, brutal attacks. The true power of the Thunderchild did not lie solely in its weapons. It also had a psychological effect on the Dominion forces. For centuries, the Dominion had been the undisputed masters of space warfare. Their fleets had defeated every enemy they encountered with terrifying efficiency, their ships cloaked in secrecy and capable of devastating precision. They had grown used to their own technological superiority, and no one had ever challenged them in a way that made them question their methods. But the Thunderchild was different. It did not operate within the confines of established norms. It was not afraid to break the rules of combat, and in doing so, it made the Dominion's methods seem outdated and predictable. The Dominion, for all their advanced technology, had not considered the power of unpredictability in warfare. They relied on coordinated strikes and perfect timing, using their superior sensors and communication networks to maintain perfect control over their fleets. But this strategy was precisely what made them vulnerable. The Thunderchild's ability to disrupt their systems, to appear and disappear at will, created a level of chaos the Dominion could not respond to. In that chaos, the Thunderchild thrived. The Thunderchild's approach to warfare was also a reflection of humanity's core values, adaptability and resilience. Throughout Earth's history, humans had been forced to adapt to rapidly changing circumstances. Whether fighting against alien invaders, natural disasters, or human-made catastrophes, humanity had learned to survive by being flexible, by changing strategies when faced with new challenges. The Thunderchild was an embodiment of that same adaptability and invention, born not from the desire to dominate, but from the necessity to survive and outthink the enemy. While other species in the galaxy had refined their technology over millennia, humanity had taken a different path. Instead of perfecting existing technology, humans had learned to innovate rapidly, to think outside the box and create solutions in the face of overwhelming odds. The Thunderchild was a direct result of this mindset, a ship designed to operate outside the conventional limits of space warfare, using unconventional methods to achieve victory. As Frost and her crew watched their ship tear through the Dominion fleet, it became clear that humanity's approach to war was something entirely new. It wasn't about brute force or overwhelming numbers, it was about innovation and adaptation, the ability to turn the tide of battle with new technology and unpredictable tactics. The Thunderchild wasn't just another warship, it was a symbol of what humanity could achieve when faced with the impossible. And as the Dominion's ships continued to fall, one by one, the realization began to set in among the galactic powers: humanity, though young and inexperienced in the ways of the galaxy, had just proven that they were capable of changing the entire balance of power. The Thunderchild was not just a ship, it was a harbinger of change, a new force in the galaxy that would reshape the future of warfare and diplomacy. And as Frost stood on the bridge, watching the chaos unfold before her, she knew that humanity had only just begun to show the galaxy what it was truly capable of. As the Thunderchild faced off against the might of the Dominion fleet, it became increasingly evident that humanity's technological innovations were challenging the expectations of every other species in the galaxy. The Thunderchild's power wasn't merely in its firepower or sheer size, it lay in its ability to bend the very fabric of space itself. A key component of this innovation was the Mobius drive, a propulsion system that allowed the Thunderchild to manipulate space-time, enabling it to appear in multiple locations at once. This technology was nothing short of revolutionary. The Mobius drive's functionality was a game-changer. It allowed the Thunderchild to move unpredictably, shifting across space as though teleporting, a feature that left even the most advanced species in awe. For the Dominion, accustomed to a methodical, predictable form of warfare, this sudden unpredictability was nothing short of a nightmare. The Dominion had always relied on their advanced sensor systems to maintain control of the battlefield, ensuring their tactics were executed with perfect precision. But against the Thunderchild, their advantage of advanced technology and coordination quickly crumbled. The Thunderchild's ability to blink in and out of existence on the battlefield rendered the Dominion's efforts to track and engage the ship futile. The Dominion warships, with their advanced cloaking mechanisms and sophisticated weaponry, found themselves helpless against the human vessel that refused to play by the established rules of engagement. Each time the Thunderchild reappeared, another Dominion ship was wiped out in the blink of an eye. The Thunderchild's weapons, enhanced by this unparalleled maneuverability, became a deadly force that tore through the Dominion fleet with shocking speed. This technological innovation revealed one of humanity's greatest strengths: the ability to rapidly adapt to new challenges. Unlike other species, which had spent centuries perfecting their technologies and strategies, humanity had been forced to learn through trial and error, constantly refining its methods in response to ever-evolving threats. The Thunderchild's Mobius drive, in particular, was a testament to humanity's innovative spirit. Instead of relying on established principles, Earth's engineers had developed a propulsion system that violated the known laws of physics. The ability to manipulate space-time itself, creating localized folds in the fabric of the universe, was a breakthrough that no one had seen coming, and it was this very breakthrough that allowed humanity to challenge the Dominion's technological dominance. The Mobius drive was a reflection of humanity's approach to warfare. When faced with seemingly insurmountable odds, humans did not rely solely on brute force or overwhelming numbers. Instead, they innovated. They found new ways to use what was available to them, adapting quickly to the ever-changing battlefield. This adaptability, this willingness to throw out old assumptions and break through existing limitations, became the cornerstone of human warfare. The Thunderchild was more than just a weapon, it was a symbol of humanity's unyielding drive to survive and thrive, even when faced with the most advanced opponents. Equally important were the kinetic weapons. The Thunderchild carried massive projectiles that could be fired at near-light speeds, capable of causing catastrophic damage to enemy ships. Unlike the energy-based weapons used by most galactic species, these kinetic lances relied on pure physical force, propelling large masses at incredible velocities. The results were devastating, impacts that mimicked the destructive force of small nuclear explosions, capable of shredding even the most reinforced hulls. The choice to rely on kinetic weapons, rather than conventional energy-based lasers or plasma beams, raised an interesting question about humanity's approach to war. Why did humans develop such a seemingly archaic weapon? The answer lay in Earth's history, a history marked by conflict and necessity. Energy weapons, though effective, were often expensive, inefficient, or difficult to defend against. Instead, humanity had developed the ability to weaponize raw force, speed, mass, and precision, creating a weapon that could overwhelm even the most advanced shields and defenses. By accelerating projectiles to velocities that exceeded the limits of most galactic weaponry, humanity had created a weapon capable of defeating the Dominion's superior technology. This shift in approach also demonstrated humanity's capacity for unconventional thinking. While many species had refined their technologies over millennia, Earth's rapid technological advancements were born from necessity. Humanity didn't have the luxury of taking centuries to perfect a single technology. Instead, they were forced to think outside the box, adapting existing principles in new ways to meet the challenges at hand. The Mobius drive and kinetic weapons were perfect examples of this creative thinking, innovations born not from established scientific principles but from a willingness to experiment, adapt, and improve in response to the ever-changing landscape of warfare. For the Dominion, accustomed to their well-practiced strategies and overwhelming technological superiority, this unpredictable style of warfare was both disorienting and deadly. The Thunderchild represented everything they had not accounted for: the unexpected. Where the Dominion had relied on sheer technological might and perfect coordination, humanity had embraced flexibility, creativity, and surprise. And it was this very unpredictability that made the Thunderchild so effective. The results of this innovation were immediate. The Thunderchild, though outnumbered and seemingly outgunned, became a one-ship wrecking force capable of taking down entire fleets. The kinetic lances tore through the Dominion's defenses like paper, and the Mobius drive's erratic movements made it nearly impossible for Dominion ships to respond. Each strike from the Thunderchild was a reminder that, in warfare, the ability to adapt and innovate could often be more valuable than sheer strength. In many ways, the Thunderchild's success was a microcosm of humanity's greatest military strength, adaptability. It wasn't just the weapons or the technology that made the ship so formidable, it was the mindset behind it. Humanity's willingness to challenge conventional wisdom, to rethink established norms, and to adapt in the face of adversity had transformed them from a fledgling species into a force to be reckoned with in the galaxy. In the end, it wasn't just the destruction of the Dominion fleet that made the Thunderchild's appearance so significant. It was the realization that humanity had brought something entirely new to the battlefield, an approach to warfare defined not by tradition or overwhelming numbers, but by creativity, innovation, and the courage to do things differently. And as the Thunderchild tore through the Dominion's ships, it became clear, the galaxy would never be the same again. The initial response of the Dominion to the Thunderchild was one of confusion and skepticism. They had never encountered a ship like it, nothing that could blink in and out of reality at will, nothing that could strike so quickly and with such force. For the Dominion, who had built their empire on the precision of their collective intelligence and flawless coordination, this unpredictable force was a fatal oversight. For millennia, the Dominion had ruled through their hive-mind consciousness, with every ship in their fleet synchronized to a degree that allowed them to execute perfect strategies with overwhelming efficiency. Their advanced sensors and communication systems ensured that they were always one step ahead of their enemies, predicting movements and responding with devastating precision. Their fleets had swept through star systems with a relentless, almost mechanical efficiency, crushing all who stood in their way. There was no need for deviation, no room for unpredictability, everything was controlled and calculated. But the Thunderchild shattered this carefully constructed paradigm. Its ability to move unpredictably, to appear and disappear at will, disrupted the very foundation of Dominion warfare. The ship did not follow the patterns the Dominion had come to rely on. It didn't wait for the opportune moment or follow a predictable trajectory, it introduced chaos into the otherwise perfectly orchestrated chaos of battle. And this chaos was something the Dominion could not control. As the Thunderchild launched its devastating strikes against the Dominion fleet, the first signs of panic began to spread. For the first time in years, the Dominion fleet was unable to respond to an enemy that was moving too erratically for their sensors to track. Each time the Thunderchild reappeared on the battlefield, another Dominion ship was obliterated, their defense systems failing against the raw force of humanity's weaponry. The Dominion, so accustomed to having control over every engagement, found themselves on the defensive. Admiral Trax, watching in disbelief as the Thunderchild tore through the Dominion's fleet, began to comprehend just how thoroughly unprepared they were for this new form of warfare. The Dominion's carefully honed strategies, built on centuries of collective knowledge, had no answer for the chaos the Thunderchild unleashed. Where they relied on coordinated strikes and perfect timing, humanity's ship introduced the unexpected, something their systems could not account for. The Dominion's reliance on prediction, their greatest strength, had become their greatest weakness. This situation highlights a crucial lesson in military strategy: predictability is a weakness. Once an enemy has learned to fight using conventional strategies, that knowledge becomes a burden. It becomes an expectation, something that can be easily countered by an adversary willing to break the mold. The Thunderchild was not just a new weapon, it was a new way of thinking. While the Dominion had perfected their approach over centuries, humans were willing to discard established norms and try something entirely new. In this case, unpredictability became the ultimate weapon. The Dominion, despite their superior numbers and technology, were not prepared to face an enemy that did not follow the rules. They had spent too long refining their strategies within the confines of a predictable, coordinated system. Their fleet had been designed to operate as a unified, well-oiled machine, but that very reliance on synchronization made them vulnerable to the kind of chaos the Thunderchild introduced. As the battle raged on, it became clear that the Thunderchild was not just overpowering the Dominion with sheer force, it was dismantling the very system that made the Dominion so formidable. By attacking the Dominion fleet in ways they could not anticipate, the Thunderchild was breaking apart their collective consciousness. The coordinated movements of the Dominion's ships, once flawless, now seemed erratic and uncoordinated. They were attacking their own, reacting to threats that didn't exist or failing to react to the ones that did. Admiral Trax watched, helpless, as his forces were torn apart. His entire strategic understanding of space warfare was collapsing in front of his eyes. The Thunderchild's actions defied logic. It was attacking not with overwhelming numbers or technological superiority, but with a form of warfare that the Dominion had never considered. The ship wasn't simply defeating the Dominion's fleets, it was proving that the rules of warfare had changed. The Thunderchild wasn't just a challenge to the Dominion, it was a symbol of everything they had missed in their approach to war. The Dominion's fleet, for all its sophistication, had been built to fight within the bounds of what they knew. The moment they were forced to face an adversary that didn't follow those bounds, their carefully constructed military strategies fell apart. This was the moment that the Dominion truly realized their vulnerability. They had been so focused on perfecting their methods, on ensuring that every move was synchronized and efficient, that they had overlooked the most fundamental aspect of warfare, the ability to adapt. The Thunderchild was a living, breathing embodiment of that adaptability. Humanity, in its drive to survive, had developed weapons and tactics that were unpredictable, that couldn't be countered by the established strategies of other galactic powers. The lessons from this confrontation were clear. In warfare, rigidity and predictability can be a trap. No matter how advanced your technology, no matter how well coordinated your forces, if you cannot adapt to new, unforeseen threats, you will be vulnerable. The Thunderchild proved that even the most powerful military force in the galaxy could be torn apart by the unexpected. And in doing so, it shattered the Dominion's belief in their own invulnerability. This battle was not just about technological superiority, it was about the ability to innovate and adapt. The Dominion had learned to fight in one way, but humanity had shown them that there was always another way. The future of warfare would not be defined by the ability to predict and control, it would be defined by the ability to surprise and adapt. And in this new era, humanity was leading the way. After the battle at Meraxia, Admiral Frost and her crew had demonstrated not only their capability but also their indispensable role in the ongoing war against the Dominion. As the dust settled and the surviving Marasian forces began their evacuation, Admiral Trax sent an invitation for Frost to meet with the leaders of the Galactic Coalition. The Thunderchild hovered over the planet, its massive silhouette now a symbol of hope rather than an omen of war. As Frost and Trax met with the Coalition representatives, a diverse group of species, each with its own culture and priorities, the conversation quickly shifted toward the potential for forming an alliance between Earth and the Galactic Coalition. Frost was direct and clear about Earth's capabilities. She emphasized that Earth could not only provide military support but also share advanced technologies, tools designed specifically to disrupt the Dominion's war machine. This was no simple proposal. The Coalition representatives, although they had witnessed the Thunderchild's victory, were skeptical. Some were even more doubtful than others. The idea of forming an alliance with humanity, a species still new to space exploration, seemed like a gamble. However, Admiral Frost was undeterred. She pointed out that while Earth might only have one warship at the moment, the Dominion was facing an enemy that did not play by the same rules they did. Humanity's greatest strength was not solely in its technology, it was in their ability to adapt, to innovate when others remained mired in tradition. And that was something no amount of firepower could predict or counter. This moment, when Frost expressed humanity's potential, was pivotal. It served as a reminder that in a galaxy filled with ancient civilizations, Earth's value did not lie in the size of its fleet, but in its unique approach to both warfare and diplomacy. It reflected humanity's ability to grow and thrive when faced with the unknown, turning our perceived shortcomings into opportunities. Skepticism remained evident among the Coalition's representatives. The Gaini diplomat, a multi-bodied being, voiced concerns about humanity's long-term viability as a galactic power. The Crystalline Pelin ambassador demanded proof of humanity's ability to maintain its technological advancements over time. Yet, despite the doubts, Frost stood firm, acknowledging that Earth's military strength was still in its infancy compared to the Dominion's, but humanity's resourcefulness had already demonstrated its capacity to make up for that. At the heart of Frost's argument was a crucial concept. Humanity was not interested in domination, it was focused on ensuring survival. Earth's approach was not to conquer the galaxy but to survive within it, to build alliances, and to contribute to the larger benefit of the galaxy's future. The idea of survival through adaptation, rather than conquest, was central to the nature of humanity. Unlike other galactic empires that sought to dominate and assimilate, Earth had faced its own existential crises throughout history. The strength of humanity lay not in the size of its armies, but in its ability to survive and evolve through creative thinking. As the meeting unfolded, Frost suggested that Earth would contribute its expertise and technology to the Coalition, but there were certain military aspects, such as kinetic weapons, that humanity would keep exclusive. These were weapons that had been developed specifically for the conflict with the Dominion and represented humanity's most potent form of leverage in the war. The Coalition, although hesitant, began to realize that humanity had brought something entirely new to the fight, a fresh perspective on warfare that could tilt the balance in their favor. As Frost's proposition continued, the tone of the room shifted. The Coalition representatives, who had once regarded humanity as an untested and unproven species, began to see the potential benefits of forming an alliance with Earth. Though reluctant to fully embrace humanity's unorthodox methods, they acknowledged that the Thunderchild's success had demonstrated the need for a broader range of strategies in the war against the Dominion. Frost's argument was straightforward. Earth's position in the galaxy was not based on the size of its military forces, but on its ability to think beyond conventional tactics. The galaxy was full of ancient civilizations that had honed their warfare techniques for centuries. However, humanity's strength lay in its ability to adapt rapidly and think differently. Earth didn't have the luxury of time to refine its methods, it had to innovate quickly, and that innovation had proven itself a decisive factor in the current war. The conversation also shifted to the broader political implications of such an alliance. The Coalition, despite its diversity of species and priorities, shared a common enemy in the Dominion. Frost emphasized that humanity's contributions would not just be military. Earth could provide new ideas in diplomacy, technology, and defense, reshaping the way the galaxy approached the war. Earth's survival depended on the success of this alliance, but humanity was also determined to ensure that the Coalition benefited from the new technologies and strategies Earth could offer. However, the discussions were not without their tensions. The Pelin representative, while acknowledging the potential advantages of humanity's weapons, expressed concerns about the long-term consequences of allowing such a new and unpredictable species to have such a pivotal role in the Coalition. The Thunderchild's victory, while impressive, was just one battle in a war that would stretch across the galaxy. The Pelin and other representatives were wary of allowing Earth too much influence without a proven track record of consistency. Still, the meeting continued, and gradually, the notion of a partnership between Earth and the Galactic Coalition began to take shape. Frost's determination and the undeniable success of the Thunderchild had demonstrated that humanity was not just capable of participating in this interstellar struggle, but of leading a new approach to warfare that the galaxy had not yet seen. The Thunderchild's unconventional tactics had disrupted the Dominion's superiority, showing the galaxy that innovation and unpredictability could be just as powerful as overwhelming numbers or technological advancement. By the end of the meeting, a tentative agreement had been reached. Earth would formally join the Coalition, contributing both military resources and the innovative technologies that had already proven so effective against the Dominion. The specifics of the alliance would be worked out over time, but one thing was clear: humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not as a conqueror, but as an indispensable ally with a new approach to warfare. As Frost looked out over the room, she knew that this was just the beginning. The war against the Dominion would continue, but Earth's contributions, its ability to adapt and innovate, had changed the course of the conflict forever. The future of the galaxy had just become a little more uncertain and a lot more exciting. The unexpected intervention and success of humanity against the Dominion in the Marasian system marked a turning point not only for the immediate conflict but also for the future of galactic warfare. The Thunderchild's display of innovation and its unconventional approach to combat proved that Earth's method of survival, adaptation, innovation, and strategic thinking was not only feasible but also transformative. Humanity had introduced a new way of thinking, not through brute force or overwhelming numbers, but by outthinking and outmaneuvering an enemy that was far more technologically advanced. This success highlighted the very core of humanity's greatest asset, the ability to adapt and innovate in the face of overwhelming odds. As the Galactic Coalition debates the future, one thing becomes abundantly clear: humanity's place in the galaxy will not be determined by the size of its fleets or adherence to traditional tactics, but rather by its ability to think outside the box, to break through established norms, and to introduce a disruptive force of creativity and adaptability. The Thunderchild's triumph was not just about winning one battle, it was a statement that humanity was capable of reshaping the way interstellar conflicts were fought, with agility and strategic flexibility that even the oldest and most advanced civilizations had failed to anticipate. In the coming years, Earth's contributions to the Coalition will play a pivotal role in shaping the future of galactic politics. While the Dominion's defeat was an immediate success, it was only the beginning of a new era where Earth's innovative technologies and unconventional methods could offer the galaxy a way forward. Humanity's role was no longer that of a mere participant, it was that of a leader, capable of guiding the coalition with fresh perspectives and new tools that other species, entrenched in their own ways, had yet to conceive. Humanity's success in this conflict was not just about military power, it was about the broader implications of cooperation, technological exchange, and new approaches to diplomacy. The next chapter of the galaxy's future would not be defined by traditional power structures or old strategies, it would be shaped by the creativity and adaptability that humanity had introduced. Earth's involvement in the coalition had already demonstrated that unconventional methods could overcome the Dominion's overwhelming numbers and strength, and it was clear that these same principles could apply to the galaxy's ongoing challenges. For the coalition, Earth's contribution was vital not only in terms of military technology but also in terms of new scientific advancements and cultural ideas. The diverse species of the coalition, though advanced in their own right, had never encountered a species like humanity, one that, despite its youth, had the ability to turn limitations into opportunities. Earth's fresh approach to space exploration, its understanding of warfare through creative and adaptive strategies, and its willingness to challenge established norms were now seen as valuable assets to the coalition's future stability. The political ramifications of humanity's growing influence were profound. As the Thunderchild and other human advancements became integral to the coalition, Earth's role began to shift from a newcomer to a leader among the stars. Human influence would be felt not only on the battlefield but in the diplomatic halls, as Earth's approach to diplomacy and international relations would emphasize the need for flexibility and pragmatism. Rather than relying solely on treaties and old political structures, humanity's mindset would push for a more adaptable, collaborative approach to resolving galactic conflicts. The war against the Dominion was far from over, but humanity's place in the galaxy had been irrevocably altered. With each victory, with each new technology and strategic insight brought to the coalition, Earth demonstrated that it was not simply a power to be reckoned with, it was a catalyst for change, capable of leading the galaxy into a new era of cooperation, exploration, and understanding. In the grander scheme of things, humanity's role in the galaxy was not about domination or territorial expansion. It was about creating a new kind of peace, one that allowed for diverse species to thrive and adapt in a universe that was constantly changing. Earth's future would not be determined by war, but by the lessons learned through those wars, by the drive to improve and innovate, and by humanity's ability to work alongside other species to build a galaxy that was both secure and forward-looking. The Thunderchild's victory over the Dominion was the first step in a larger narrative, a narrative where Earth's survival, and the survival of the galaxy, would depend on a new kind of unity. Unity not through dominance, but through creativity, adaptability, and an unwavering commitment to progress. This was humanity's gift to the galaxy, the ability to see past what is to what could be, to create solutions where others saw only dead ends. Looking forward, the galaxy stood at a crossroads. With Earth's influence growing, and its place in the coalition secured, the future of interstellar politics and warfare would no longer be solely dictated by ancient empires or established powers. Instead, the galaxy would be shaped by the willingness to embrace new ideas, to question old systems, and to foster collaboration between species that had once viewed each other as rivals. The future would be unpredictable, yes, but with humanity now firmly entrenched in the galactic stage, it was a future full of hope, potential, and possibility. In the end, humanity's greatest achievement was not the defeat of the Dominion, it was the opening of a new chapter in galactic history, one where creativity, adaptability, and cooperation would pave the way for a brighter, more dynamic future for all species across the stars. This video is packed with tons of fascinating information, and I'm sure you won't want to miss any of the details. Make sure to watch all the way through to fully understand how humanity, despite being a newcomer to the universe, managed to turn the tide of galactic war. The fight isn't over yet, and humanity's creative adaptability will continue to make the enemy rethink every strategy and plan. Once again, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments below to help us improve and create even more great content in the future. Let's continue exploring thrilling and surprising stories in HFY Sci-Fi love and war story.